I gotta go on, but if you just Michelle.
Good evening, my name is Melanie Anthony, I'm the councilwoman for Ward 2, Chair of the Committee on Finance. I am calling to order our regular meeting on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 at 4:30 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Chairwoman Helen D'Antoni,
Present.
Vice Chairman Juan Pichardo is absent. Councilman James Taylor,
Here.
Councilor Sue Engelbart, present. Councilor Miguel Sanchez.
Here.
We have 4 present, 1 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you so much, and I would like to recognize the fact that we have Council President, which is member with us this evening. We have Jonathan Falls, we've got the whole crew here today. Thea Graves, Councilwoman Al Graves, we've got our committee members, we've got Mary Kay Harris, we have Pedro Espinal, and we have Justin Moritz. And also we are joined this evening by our wonderful clerks, Donna Collegian, Lord Polanco, and Warren Gutierrez. And also we have our assistant city solicitor, Ken Chaparini, with us. We've got our auditor, Gina Costa, and many other people here this evening. So without further ado, I would like a motion to waive the readings of items 1 through 4. Motion made by Councilor Randall, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. So we have the council president, Rachel Miller, who has requested the opportunity to present an overview of the city council's fiscal year 24 budget proposals to members of our committee as well as our fellow council members. So thank you, President Miller. Would you like to proceed?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairwoman, and members of the Finance Committee and all of my colleagues here on the council. Thank you so much for creating the opportunity for me to come before you tonight. And I really want to take a moment and thank you for the thorough and thoughtful work you've done over the last 6 weeks in vetting the proposed budget before the council. Thank you to all of the council meeting members who have participated in committee meetings. Big thanks to residents who testified before us, submitted testimony, letters, texts, emails, and calls. And forgive me because I've got a long list of city leaders to also thank. So special thanks to the city's internal auditor, Gina Costa, and the city's very recently retired treasurer, Jimmy Lombardi, for their exhaustive review of the budget. Thank you to our incredible city clerk, Tina Mastrioni, and her team, Donna Telejan, Julie Blanco, Claire Gerard, who go above and beyond to ensure public access to our process. And of course, thank you to the city's chief operating officer, Courtney Hawkins, Chief Financial Officer Larry Mancini, Finance Director Sarah Silveri, Deputy Finance Director Crystal Lindbergh, and every department head and city leader who's come before this committee discussing department budgets and priorities sometimes late into the night. And finally, I want to give a shout to our own council staff who are here tonight. We've got Sean Bouchard, Parker Gavigan, Christina Brown, Miguel Young, and there's many other people who work in the council office every day to serve our residents. So as a co-equal branch of government, the council has a vitally important role in vetting the budget. When each of us was elected to represent our neighborhoods, we became stewards of the city's financial health and economic growth. We create an avenue for residents to have their voices heard in the budget process. We also know our neighborhoods intimately. We know every pothole, every wall we get tagged, every park improvement on our wish list. Providence residents rightly want to know that their tax dollars are being safeguarded and spent wisely, and want to see more tangible improvements in our neighborhoods and our quality of life. The budget, as it was presented, offered the council 2 primary challenges that this committee and other members of the council raised on day 1. The first is on taxation. So, we've talked about, while the city has not passed a tax increase in 8 years, reevaluations have meant soaring tax bills, especially in working class neighborhoods, causing families and long-term homeowners significant challenges, threatening displacement, and causing real harm for some city residents. At the same time, inflation and rising costs mean that every dollar residents earn goes less and less far. We heard all of that in testimony at the public hearing. We also heard it in the grocery store, walking on the streets, getting coffee at the bodega. You get the picture. Our constituents have stepped up and made their voices heard. The second challenge was the payment in lieu of taxes, also known as PILOT, which was a $7.1 million placeholder in the budget. So the majority of agreements between the city and our large tax exempt nonprofit institutions expire on June 30th. Mayor Smiley and his team are right now in negotiations with major educational institutions, PC, Brown University, RISD, and Johnson & Wales. However, those agreements will not be finalized before the next fiscal year begins on July 1st. That creates a hole in the budget, and city council cannot pass an unbalanced budget. So tonight, I want to share with you a proposal for meeting these two challenges that you all have raised and vetted here in this committee. And it's a proposal that still sets a course for solid financial footing for Providence. Okay, so the budget presented to us in April proposed raising the residential rate by 90 cents to $18.70, lowering the homestead exemption for owner occupied from 45% to 40%, and lowering the commercial tax rate by $1.30 to $34.10. I'm asking that you consider an updated proposal on the tax rate, a residential rate of $18.35, and that you consider lowering the homestead exemption by 2% to 43%. On the commercial side, I'm asking you to consider lowering the commercial rate by 30 cents to $35.10. So I want to talk about this proposal for a minute. For the average priced home in the city, this proposal raises taxes by approximately $226. That's $222 less than the budget as it was proposed in April. Look, we know we're a city of renters. I rent an apartment in a 3-story in a residentially zoned neighborhood, and I'm typical, right? Like most people who rent in the city live in residential buildings. 3 times as many live in residential as in commercial properties. Many of the folks who live in commercial properties also are living in luxury properties whose rents are unlikely to be impacted by lowering the commercial rate. However, I don't disagree with Mayor Smiley that our commercial rate is too high and it's getting in our way and obstructing growth, especially for small businesses and community-based organizations. So that 30 cents I'm asking you to consider starts to balance that out. We absolutely need an opportunity to talk about our tax structure outside of the constraints of this tight budget timeline, right? We've been 6 weeks from proposal to today. I think it's 6 weeks and 2 days. So this fall, I'll be asking the council to convene a commission on taxation to discuss these issues with a special eye on keeping long-term homeowners in their homes and supporting growth and development of all kinds, particularly empowering local talent to be part of that growth. The tax rate I'm asking you to consider achieves 4.1 million in savings for Providence residents. So this week, Majority Leader Taylor, Deputy Majority Leader Harris, Chairwoman Anthony, and I met with Mayor Smiley and his finance team to discuss this proposal and how to close the gap. We had very productive conversations that were only possible because of the stellar work of this committee. You dug deep into department budgets. You asked great questions, you raised important issues, and essentially you did the job that's entrusted to you by residents of the city, and you did it really well. I want to thank Mayor Smiley for working with us collaboratively this week to find a meeting in the middle. We were able to close the gap in the budget without compromising vital infrastructure improvements or services. And I'll just run through the savings and then talk a little bit about a few other things and where we're headed. So the savings I'll ask you to consider are largely administrative. They include adding $500,000 from ARPA for revenue recovery, reducing fire callback and police overtime by $200,000 and $350,000 respectively, zeroing out the public safety commissioner and the commissioner's administrative assistant positions, which are currently empty. We're proposing eliminating a few non-essential proposed positions, including within the council office. I'm also asking you to consider scaling back the proposed fire department reorganization. They propose a new management structure. And just to be clear, I am extremely excited about Chief Silva. We have been for 8 years without a fire chief, and I'm excited about him and his leadership. But given the financial constraints of this year, we're asking him to lead within the current structure. And additionally, thanks to the keen eye of former city treasurer Lombardi, the city took advantage of federal guidelines on ARPA, providing the opportunity to earn interest on the federal revenue, and we'll be using $692,000 of that interest to achieve the 4.1 million tax savings. And there's, other stuff ongoing. The administration and finance team adjusted technical errors and administrative cleanup. That equals $328,000 in savings. So we can realize these savings while preserving 1.5 million in neighborhood improvement funds that I know all of us will put to work on vital projects like parks, schools, streets, playgrounds, and we can do it without eliminating any current staff positions. We can also do this while having a second police academy and still moving on a lateral fire academy, although we are asking for that to be the last lateral academy of this term. You all shared loud and clear that while we know we understand we need firefighters now to keep costs down, we lose a lot in diversity and opportunity by not opening up recruitment to the incredible residents of our city. So that second police academy is a great example of good questions asked and answered by this committee that has realized savings for residents. The police department shared with you that it takes about 8 to 12 months to go from recruit to graduate in the police academy, and was proposing to launch a new academy in October, but hadn't yet begun recruitment. The chairwoman, the internal auditor, and several committee members saw that the budget also included 21 weeks for those 40 graduates of that second academy to be out on the street as officers. So that's nearly 5 months, just those 21 weeks. They would have had to graduate from the academy and be on the street by February 9th for that to be possible. I just want to say that over this past week in conversations with Mayor Smiley and the finance team, we were able to smoothly correct that oversight. In doing so, and in addressing a few other technicalities in the police budget, we realized 1.69 million in savings in that department alone. So I want to switch gears and talk about pilot. Large tax exempt institutions, our universities and hospitals, absolutely contribute to the vibrancy and economy of our city. They bring research dollars, they bring great programs, they contribute to the culture, and make tangible and intangible contributions. They also bring a lot of people here, which is fantastic, but those people use resources. Those resources cost money. Our future and the future of the top tier institutions that make their home here are intrinsically linked. To continue to attract top talent and students, our universities and hospitals need Providence to thrive. For Providence to thrive, we need them to step up. 39% of the tax base in the city is owned by tax-exempt nonprofit institutions. According to 2021 data, if Providence's largest tax-exempt institutions paid full taxes on their properties, the city would bring in 130 million in revenue. If they paid just 10% of their full taxes, they would bring in 13 million in revenue in 1 year. Instead, pilot agreements generated just 6.7 million last year. So just to put this in perspective, in New Haven, a city with a population of 130,000 people, tax-exempt nonprofits paid 43 million to the city in 2020. Bridgeport, Connecticut, with a population of 333,000, generated 12.5 million in revenue that same year from tax-exempt. In his budget proposal, Mayor Smiley proposed expanding programs and services that this council has received enthusiastically. We've heard from neighbors and residents who share that enthusiasm. And I'm talking about the core quality of life services, right? We're talking about noise meters, enhanced graffiti removal, dealing with trash in commercial corridors, moving some sidewalk maintenance capabilities in-house, giving the first source hiring program necessary staff, and expanding our capabilities to coordinate social service, especially with respect to housing and supporting our unhoused population. Each of us, I think, wholeheartedly endorse these proposals. We need Mayor Smiley to bring us a strong pilot treaty that closes the budget gap and gives us all room, residents and tax-exempt institutions alike, to grow and thrive together. Otherwise, we are making promises without the receipts, and we're just doing it at the expense of city residents who are already struggling just to get by. I'm asking council to propose a freeze to non-essential hiring as part of our fiscal year 2024 budget ordinance until we have approved new pilot agreements with our tax-exempt institutions that close the budget gap. I anticipate these proposals will be before the council in the next several months. So the hiring freeze does include proposed staffing to these great programs that we care about and fully endorse, which further highlights just how important these pilot agreements are. So I just want to take a minute to talk about next steps. I came before you tonight to lay out the big picture and give the public a chance to digest those details ahead of Tuesday's second public hearing, which, thanks to Chairwoman Anthony's leadership, will be the first time ever the changes the city council itself is considering making to the budget will be vetted through public comment. That said, even today, we were still finalizing some of the finer details of this proposal between the council and the administration, how best to encode the hiring freeze, right? And nailing down some details with both our auditor and the city's finance department. And so we're still a few days away from a redlined budget substitution. We anticipate posting that online on Monday. Tuesday night, there is a finance committee meeting scheduled on the rise of the public hearing, where you will introduce a fully redlined budget substitution and further discuss this proposal. And you may choose to vote it out of committee that night. Should you do so, it will come before the full council, and we'll schedule 2 special council meetings to pass the levy and the budget. And there's also a handout that explains some of this that Chairwoman Anthony will introduce shortly. I just want to close and say, in January, when you elected me as president, I made a commitment to you that we would build a coalition on this council and throughout the city to work across difference and find common ground to deliver concrete improvements in people's lives and move Providence forward. The process we created during this budget vetting over the last 6 weeks has done exactly that. And this proposal is the product of it. I'm so proud to serve with you, and I believe this proposal is in solid hands. Okay.
I would just like to say thank you so much, Council President. It really is a historic achievement for us to be discussing these amendments on the floor, so I can't thank you enough for your leadership. With that said, I'm going to have the speech that the councilman president just presented and the snapshot to be marked as separate exhibits. So I'm sorry, we're starting with exhibit number.
Do you want to follow?
Yes.
We're going to start with 34.
Okay, we're going to mark the presentation by Council President Rachel Miller as exhibit number 34. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All in favor? All opposed? And then I will have the fiscal year proposed amended budget snapshot marked as exhibit 35. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All in favor? Could you please distribute these so the committee members have an opportunity to have these in front of them so that we can open up the floor for questions and discussion with the council president. So I'm going to wait till everyone has the copies before them, and certainly if members people who are attending would like copies, they may also have copies if you haven't.
Do it. Well, you know,
So I will take this opportunity to say that the council president and I have met with tried to meet with as many council members as we possibly could one-on-one. We've been meeting periodically to update everyone to make sure that everyone has been apprised of what we're proposing and trying to reach a consensus, which is something also that really hasn't been done in the past, to have 15 council members apprised of what we've been discussing and asking their opinions. I mean, we really have spent a lot of time. I'm very proud of the committee and my fellow council members for making themselves available, for participating in the process. But this is not just, this is a piece of work that everyone has worked on, and that's how we have arrived at today. So with that said, I'm going to open it up for questions, any discussions, any statements, anything that the committee members would like to say, or any of our fellow councilors would like to say regarding this budget. Yes.
I'll make a quick comment. I really want to thank Council President Miller and Chairman Anthony for this very thorough and transparent process. And the 2 most common things I heard from my residents, one was that they wanted to see this kind of vetting, and this was our job, and they did a good job of that. So we're fellow members of the committee. And also that they wanted to see if there were going to be any changes to the residential rate, they wanted to see the nonprofit institutions step up. And I think that's the balance that we struck here. And so I just wanted to thank you for that. But that is where we're right now. So thank you so much.
That's it. Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions, comments?
Chairwoman. Yeah, and there's just a comment really, as a new counselor, this process was definitely very interesting, a lot of learning. And it definitely sets a good foundation for the next few years of our term. My council president was mentioning, there's just some things that as a city, we really need to be focusing on. And I think the pilot agreement is a place that we absolutely need more contribution from our city partners. And also, I'm glad to hear and be a part of the commission going forward with our tax base because it's very broken. It's been this way for decades at this time, and we definitely need to be going in a different direction. So I'm really looking forward to that commission. And just lastly, just want to thank the chairwoman and pretty much everyone in this room for all the work that you guys have done. This definitely has been a team effort, and I just want to thank you all for that.
Yes, Councilwoman Graves.
I will give the accolades that you all got already. Same thing. But there has been a lot of discussion from my ward. The biggest thing has been with the commercial decrease, because most people see that as a trickle down thing. I'm glad that we took $1 off and made it 30 cents. But the other thing that they were talking about is there going to be a cap if because we don't want to have the small businesses suffer. That's what the majority of them said. But what constitutes a small business? Because when we looked it up, it was like 100 to 1,500 people, employees. That to most of us is not a small business, thing. Also, we'll talk about the millions that they have to make, which also does not fall under most people's concept of a small business. I know that the CARES Act that they had for small businesses capped it at 50. I wonder if that can be added to it or brought in, so that there is a cap, so that it is truly going to the ones that need it the most, opposed to some of these larger groups, And like I said, that was brought up at my Ward 12 meeting, and I think it's a valid point. A lot of people, nobody wants taxes. I'd be telling you a lie if I told you that everybody said, "Oh yeah, we'd be happy to pay taxes." They didn't say that. What they said was they don't mind paying taxes if it's even all across the board, So, and I think the majority of people feel that way, but they also they don't want to feel like it's all being dumped on them, because we are still going to do a decrease in the home status thing, and we're still going to be taxing the people. Then we need to show them that, yes, we came down on the commercial, but we also capped it so that it's really for the poor ones, the smaller ones, the ones that are really truly struggling. So that's my only comment.
Well, I really appreciate that because I think you brought up a good point. I mean, it's very hard when you have the way this tax rate is set. It's not really possible to cap the nonprofits or the small businesses, in terms of number of employees. But, I think we need to make this part of an ongoing discussion. Certainly, if we're looking at tax structure, which is what the council president is proposing, that I think, things like this need to be discussed. Who are we really trying to help? And how can we equitably do that? So I really appreciate your comments tonight. Thank you. Yes, Councilman Gonzalez.
Thank you, Council President, for those remarks, and also
May I ask you one
Yes.
question? Can you sit back just a little so you can see the council president?
Sure.
I know you're eagerly hanging on for every word, but.
Sure. And thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for your leadership on this. Just for the sake of transparency for the general public, can we elaborate more on what the tax increases will be for each individual ward? I think it's important for the general public to understand what the implications are going to be on the proposed tax rate at 1835 for residential, with the 43% non-owner occupied homestead.
So we, in our handout, if you have looked at yours, which is now available to everyone, and I will say, I just want to take that, and thank you very much, Councilman, for that question. The two documents that were marked as exhibits are going to be added to the budget documents that are online. So just as a reminder, you're going to be accessing this on the agendas. It says to download the budget related documents. So these will be up and hopefully linked to, and hopefully the press will take them so that we can get these documents out for everyone to see before the public hearing next week. And of course, by then it will also have a itemized sub-A. But what you were asking for is actually broken out by ward in the handout, Councilman. So this is going to be an added to the record. So thank you for asking that question.
So just for the general public to understand this, there's going to be an increase across the board. Last year, there was a reassessment, which resulted in many of our wards receiving increases in assessments across the board. Ward 1, there was a 28% increase across the board. Ward 2, there was a 29% increase across the board. Ward 10, there was a 59% increase across the board. There was a 47% increase across the entire city. If we look at the non-owner occupied homestead, it's 392 additional tax dollars for Ward 1, 563 additional tax dollars for Ward 2. If we look at Wards 10, it looks like there is going to be roughly a $200 increase with the cost of living, also rising costs as you mentioned. Do you think there could have been a different policy decision had the nonprofit and tax exempt institutions come to the table earlier, and if we had carved out an agreement earlier?
I'm going to let the council president answer that first, and I may have something to add.
I actually just want to do a quick technical addition. So the chart that the chairwoman is referring to is right here in the handout, and the numbers that you share, Councilman, are a little bit off. So I just want folks to be clear. Please look up your chart.
Yeah.
So, and you know, the thing is, it varies so much by ward, and we're talking about average household. Every homeowner is gonna, have a different tax bill, of course. But we are looking at overwhelming, so, Councilman, you were bringing up.
My apologies, 292.
I'm sorry, that is not the correct word. It's right here on the sheet.
Please don't interrupt.
So the non-homestead properties, vary wildly by ward, but for example, in your ward, Ward 1, for residential property that is not owner occupied, the average increase from last year to this year would be $270. Again, I don't have in front of me what was proposed to us in April. It's significantly more than that. And so what we are really trying to do is to make sure that Providence is still on secure financial footing. We are very much still recovering from COVID. We are plugging the budget this year with 11.5 million in ARPA recovery funds. And so it's not to say that, Providence, everything is great and we don't need to raise taxes. I think what the council and what's before us, it's really about balancing, right? Like how the same way that all of us and all of our residents are having to make every dollar that we earn stretch a little bit farther, we're essentially doing the same. with our taxes. So it's 4.1 million in savings from what was proposed in April. Those are not sort of connected to service. And so just to have the actual numbers in front of you, and I appreciate that you have that in front of you now.
So I asked,
Councilman?
yes, so thank you, Chairwoman. So I asked that just for transparency before the public hearing, because I think it's critically important that the residents of the city understand the implications on the policy decisions that we're making as a council. So that the public understands what the increases will be across the board. So just I'm sharing that for full transparency on behalf of the public, and I just want to say I appreciate everyone who is involved in this process. There's a lot of work that went into this, a lot of due diligence that went into this process, and I think that we heard loud and clear from the residents of the city that they couldn't afford an increase. I understand that we do need to do something about the commercial tax rate. It's exorbitantly high. It's one of the highest commercial tax rates, in fact, in the country. So the balance that was struck is something that I'm just going to say on record was a reasonable balance. But I wish that we would have had an agreement with the large tax exempt institutions first, so that way we're not filling these budget holes later on in the budget process. So just wanted to state that for the record, and I appreciate everyone's due diligence on this process.
Thank you, Councilman. Other comments? Questions? Yes.
Well, I
Councilwoman
don't have a question. I just want to say how being one of the oldest council members, not old, but being on the council for so many years and going through this process, I want to say that I believe this has been the most transparent process that I've been through, simply because, from the very beginning, I started with the budget, trying to understand the budget. That's very important. And I really appreciate the new leaders that we have that dug their hands right in. I spent 2 years trying to, what's going on, you know what I mean? So you guys have been able to do some amazing work. I want to say that out loud, and I want to say it very clearly. You have put a lot into this. When we first got the proposal of the mayor's budget, when the mayor done the budget speech, our constituents got very stirred up, and they wanted us to make some decisions. And they wanted us to make decisions that they were able to be a part of. Thank you very much for the public hearing on the mayor's budget. Thank you again on being able to also push for another public hearing on the presentation that the council president has put out today. Simply because the work that had to be done in this budget wasn't easy. I've been through, all right, this is what, maybe my 8th budget, and it has not been easy any and every time. There has been, people who were not happy. There was false stuff that in the past have been put out that was not true. But I can say that anybody who's not paying attention to this process, I feel bad for them, because we have open transparency around this process. And I want to appreciate you, Finance Chair, and I want to appreciate your committee. I want to thank you, Council President, for building that relationship and building that relationship with the mayor's office and administration, where it was not antagonistic. It was a relationship that I witnessed, and I appreciate that being here so many years and going through this process. And each one is, every year is uncomfortable. Guess what? We got to pass another budget next year. Okay, so I just want you to know that if we continue to do what we're doing this year, being transparent, creating that tax, commission to be able to understand basically what we need to understand even deeper, I think we're where we're supposed to be. And that's just me being here for a very long time on the council, and really appreciating some really serious work that I've been able to see happen. So that's my little speech for tonight. Not speaking because of the cameras, I need cameras, but I'm speaking because I really appreciate you guys and appreciate the work. And thank you for being so invested, every one of you. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you again, and I appreciate you guys a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Well, yes, Chief Mancini. Good evening. Thank you so
I
much.
don't know if
for-
I need to be sworn in.
I'm not sure you do either. Are you presenting or commenting?
I'm just making a comment.
Then I don't think you need to be sworn in, so please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On
Join
behalf
us.
of the administration, if I can still, we too like to express our appreciation for this process. It was a process that, throughout the process, but particularly that was highly collaborative. I want to thank the president for the work. I'm sure the administration will share a full responsibility. The finance team, administration team, watching and know that we are in full support of the changes and in full support of the process going forward.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, Chief. Okay. Any other comments, questions? I just will again say that it's still difficult, it's going to be very difficult for a number of our residents for any increase in the residential tax rate. But again, I think we have to start with as well as we can. With that said, we are going to hear from the public and we're going to listen to what the testimony is. On the 13th at 5:30 is the public hearing. We will be meeting on the rise, and while some people are not happy that we have to do it on the rise, we will deliberate. We will deliberate and consider the testimony that we hear. It's not as just, passing it on. There will be a robust discussion, and that will be the time when we vote the budget out of the committee. Unless we think we need more time, that is the plan. So it's going to be the public hearing. We are going to have a very robust meeting on the rise, and then we will make a decision as to whether we are ready to vote the budget out of the committee on that night. So I want people to know that we have to pass, as you know, we have to pass the budget by ordinance twice, and so there will be special meetings set aside for that in the coming weeks. And so please watch the calendar. There's some tentative dates already set. So I really appreciate everyone's participation. We're not finished, but we're well on our way. So with that, we have a motion to continue. Second, motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Agrawal. All in favor?
Aye.
May I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So,
Second. Okay, the motion was made by Councilor Agrawal, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you.